feel tensions rising, I hear voices in my head. They counsel me, they understand. They talk to me, they talk to me. They tell me things that I will do. They show me things I'll do to you. They talk to me, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. They talk to me, talk to me, talk to me.
What's up, YouTubers? This is HarpyCounter89 coming at you from the Duelist Den, and I'm super stoked because the new Forbidden/Limited list is finally out. I've actually been waiting for this for a while now. I have my prediction video up. If you want, you can go back and watch that prediction video and see what I got right, what I didn't get right. So with that being said, let's jump right into this. There are only two cards that got banned on this list, the first of which is Performer Pal Monkey Board. This card went from limited to banned. This card I did not call on my list, but it does make sense considering the Pendulum Magicians are still a very viable deck, and this card in of itself was pretty much a one-card Pendulum scale, because you summon or you activate this, you got Skullcrabat to your hand, you normal summon Skullcrabat, got Wisdom Eye, and you went into your scales. And this card was just super powerful. I'm actually surprised it didn't get banned on the emergency list last time, but it is a good call that they actually got it banned this time. The second card to get hit was Kaiser Coliseum. Now, granted, I have not watched the World Championship yet, so I'm not sure what kind of impact this had during the championship. But to the best of my knowledge, this card really wasn't making that big of an impact in the game. And it really was only viable in Boojins, to my knowledge. I mean, it might have seen some play in some Monarch decks, but to the best of my knowledge, this card was most viable anyway in Boojins. So, and like I said before, I haven't watched Worlds, so I'm not sure if it made a major impact there. But outside of Worlds, I'm not really sure why this was banned to begin with, especially since it went from 3 to banned. So my only guess is that it had to have done something during Worlds. It had to have been in a top deck during Worlds, or even the winning deck during Worlds. I don't know. So I'm not really sure why Konami hit this one. For limited cards, the first up on the list is Sir Melon Branch of the Burning Abyss. Now this card is what allowed the BA decks to recycle their monsters out of their graveyard. It was put on the semi-limited list, and it is now down to limited, which is really going to slow the Burning Abyss decks down a lot. Now, while in my personal opinion, I feel there was some better cards they could have hit, this hit was still at least a pretty decent hit, because it shows that Konami does realize the BAs are doing something in the game, and they continue to do stuff in the game, and they are continually trying to slow them down. So I feel that this was really a good hit for this deck. And it was a good call on Konami's part. It probably wasn't their best call for hitting the deck, but it was a fairly decent hit. Aether, the Heavenly Monarch, is the next card to get hit to the limited list. This card is just super broken, and although I believe there are some more troublesome cards in Monarchs, this was a really good call on Konami's part, mainly because this card not only allowed you to thin out your deck, and it was super easy to summon, requiring only one tribute summoned monster to be tributed for its summon. But you could also tribute summon this during your opponent's turn. And for Monarchs, that's just going a little too far in my opinion. Now, yeah, this card was a major problem for the decks, and even at 1, it could still see some major issues for people who are playing against Monarchs. But still, I think Konami could have done some better hits. They actually did hit several cards for Monarchs, and the hits did slow the deck down, but it did not shut them down. And I feel that Konami could have hit something better, but still, I feel really good about this hit, mainly because this was one of the most problematic monster cards, anyway, in Monarch decks. Oh my sweet Lord Jesus, thank God they finally hit Dark Destroyer. This is the most problematic card in Cosmos as far as monsters are concerned, with the ability to destroy one of your opponent's monsters on a summon, and then searching out any level 7 or lower Cosmo monster. This card was just broken. Although not the most broken card in the game, this card was arguably one of the best cards in the Cosmo deck. Allowed you to clear your opponent's field, allowed you to get a level 7 or lower monster on the field, like Cosmo Farm Girl, which could then get another higher Cosmo monster out on the field. I mean, this card, it was just a pain in the ass, if you ask me. And I really like Konami's choice for hitting this. Honestly, I think they should have hit Cosmo World, but the Cosmo Field spell. But this was still a really good hit, and I feel that this was a good hit on Konami's part. Holy shit, motherfucker, they hit my unicorn. Damn it. For those of you who don't know, I've been trying to put my Magic Specter deck together for a while now. I've got the side and extra deck built, all done. I'm just missing a couple cards for the main deck. 3 raccoons, 3 tornadoes, and a cat, I believe it is. So I'm this close to finishing it, and then they go and fucking hit unicorn. As granted, it's not like I wasn't expecting unicorn to get hit. I was just hoping it wouldn't get hit down to 1. Mainly because my deck only utilizes 2 unicorns, but still, I was really hoping this would only get hit down to semi-limited if it did. But it got hit down to limited, and I really don't understand why it did, considering there are other cards that do the same thing. I mean, you've got you got compulsory evacuation device, you got lightning Chidori, you got Harpy Harpist. I mean, there's a whole bunch of cards out there that bounce cards back to the hand. I just don't know why they hit this. It makes very little sense to me bringing it down to 1. I mean, they could have brought it down to 2 and still done fine with it. Again, another good hit. We have Beatrice, the Eternal Lady. This went from 3 to 1. Now, again, like several other cards, I feel that could have been better choices. Beatrice was the strongest monster in BAs. But honestly, I think they could have killed 2 birds with 1 stone if they just hit Dante instead of Beatrice. Because, Beatrice, although you don't need Dante to summon her, she works best with Dante either in your graveyard or on the field. But still, Beatrice was a really good call on Konami's part. It's definitely going to slow any deck that uses Burning Abyss cards like PK Fire or the actual Burning Abyss deck itself. It's going to slow it way down. It's a really good hit on Konami. But like I said, they could have hit Dante and done a lot better job with hitting the deck. They didn't actually, in my opinion, kill off any deck. I mean, yeah, they slowed a bunch of decks down, and people probably aren't going to be running them. But so far, nothing I've seen has actually killed any deck, which is usually what they do with the ban that's right after Worlds. So I'm actually surprised at some of these decisions because none of these decks that I've seen are actually dead. I mean, I just feel Konami could have done a lot better on this list. But still, this is a really good call, and I'm real happy this got hit just because it was a real pain in the ass to deal with. This is actually one of the cards that I actually don't disagree with at all. Emergency Teleport was a real pain in the ass in Cosmo decks. It was also decent in Psy-Frames. Honestly, like I said, this is a card that I actually have no problems with at all. Konami, great job picking this card. This card really needed to get hit. I would have preferred it to get banned, but, it wasn't that much of a nuisance, apparently, I guess. This is Emergency Teleport, it gives you a free special summon of a Psychic type monster for absolutely no cost. And it's just one of those really broken cards that everybody hates seeing played against them. So, good job, Konami. You actually made a decent choice for this list. Thank God. Jesus Christ, Konami. Another horrible decision. Granted, it's not horrible. It's just another one of those decisions that I think could have gone better. Pantheism of the Monarchs got hit from 3 down to 1. This card lets you search out 3 Monarch spell or trap cards from your deck. Your opponent gets to pick one to add to your hand. This is not getting rid of the problem with Monarchs, Konami. You're slowing them down, but you're not really getting rid of them. And let's face it, guys, Monarchs are really the biggest problem deck right now, as they can shut pretty much anything down with their 2 continuous spells and their field spell that prevents people from special summoning monsters. I said in my prediction video, I'm going to say it again, those are the cards that need to get hit. We're 2 out of 3 on the Monarch cards, and they still have not dealt with the real problem in Monarchs. I can't wait to see what the 3rd Monarch card is. I know they hit one. Don't know what it is yet. But seriously, Konami, you're not solving the problem with this deck. All you're doing is slowing it down a little bit. Pendulum Call, 3-1. Oh my god. It's a good call on Konami's part. Pendulum Magicians have run their course. Now, granted, I am a little disappointed with this because I run 2 copies of this card in my Harpy Magician deck. So I am really sad to see this get bumped down to 1. It's going to slow my Harpy Magicians down a little bit, but it's not that big a deal. I can compensate for it real easily. But as far as just basic playability of the card and how well it does in the deck, I'd have to say this is a really good call to kind of hit the Pendulum Edition deck. Again, I want to say Pendulum Editions are dead with the hits that they've gotten on this list. They're just slowed down. Konami, like I said earlier, Konami just hasn't killed off any decks yet, at least not that I've seen. It's kind of disappointing that they haven't actually killed off any decks with these hits. I think this is probably just a lazy ban list. That they're not really facing the true problems of these decks, what's really making these decks go around. So I'm just not sure what's going on with Konami on this ban list. To me, it seems like you're just getting lazier with some of these lists. But anyway, this was a decent call on Konami, hitting Pendulum Call. It's going to slow the deck down a lot. It's probably going to knock out top tier status, which is really good, but it's not going to kill the deck entirely, which is okay as well, at least for Pendulum Magicians. The Monarch Storm 4th, 3-1. Jesus Christ, Konami, are you stupid? Seriously, are you stupid? You are not dealing with the real problem with Monarchs here. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Monarch Storm 4th is pretty much just a quick play version of an older card called Soul Exchange. Now, hitting Storm 4th down to 1 is not going to be a real big deal considering the Soul Exchange is still at 3 and you can easily replace it. Granted, Soul Exchange is not a quick play spell, but it does this exact same fucking thing, Konami. You need to hit the real problem with this deck. I don't know why you didn't. The 2 continuous spells and the field spell, that's what you needed to hit. The cards that prevent your opponent from special summoning monsters, that is what you need to hit for this deck, Konami. Oh my god. I swear to god, Konami is giving me a Titanic-sized migraine with this list. I mean, it's just ridiculous that they're not even trying. I mean, seriously, they're not even trying to hit some of these decks, especially this one. Now on to the semi-limited. Starting off the top of the semi-limited cards is Maxie. Again, I feel Konami was just being lazy with this ban list here. I mean, most of the decks I see that run Maxie usually don't run more than 2 of them anyway, so making a semi-limited wasn't really hurting the card. That being said, Maxie, I don't think should have gotten hit in the first place. You know, considering that if you're going off so much that, you know, Maxie is just popping, you're going to win that turn anyway. I mean, unless you're running some rogue deck that you can easily shut your opponent down with, you know, Maxie just doesn't really affect your opponent, you know. 99% of the time, well, I'm going to say between 90 and 95% of the time, you know, if your opponent activates Maxie, you don't really care because you're going to win that turn anyway. So, you know, and the 5 to 10% where you do care, your opponent's only going to get 1 or 2 draws off, and you're still, it's not a big deal. So I don't know why they hit Maxie to begin with. I guess it is a semi-decent hit, but I just don't understand why they hit it when there were other cards that they could have hit. Thunder King Rio, limited to semi-limited. This is a good call, Konami, mainly because Thunder King Rio isn't very viable in any sort of meta right now. I don't think it's really been viable for 2 or 3 metas, considering, you know, it only stops 1 special summon, and more than likely, you know, your opponent's going to be running some sort of Pendulum-based deck where they're going to be doing, you know, multiple special summons at a time, you know. So Thunder King Rio isn't really viable anymore. Back, you know, several formats ago, it was really good. But when Pendulums came out, you know, Thunder King Rio just went down the tube and wasn't really that good of a card anymore. So I think this was a really good call on Konami bringing it up to semi-limited. It could even get unlimited at some point in the future, probably even on the next ban list. So who knows? But I really like this call on Konami's part. Wind Up Magician is the next card on the semi-limited list. It got bumped from limited to semi-limited. I think that's a really good call considering windups haven't really done anything. They're way too slow for any sort of modern or current format here recently. And I just feel, this card probably could have even gotten bumped up to 3, and windups still aren't going to be seeing a lot of play. I mean, yeah, you probably see a couple a couple people playing windup decks again, but they're not really going to be top tier status. So bringing this card up to 2 was pretty decent. They're I feel there's some better cards that could have bumped up to semi-limited status, but again, Konami is Konami, and they will do what they do. So that is that. Thousand Eyes Restrict Unlimited. It's about bloody time. This should have happened a long fucking time ago, and I'm just super stoked that Thousand Eyes Restrict is unlimited. I'm actually probably gonna get a deck set of instant fusions and tech all 3 copies that I have into one of my decks. It's probably either gonna be my jackpot deck, but I might tech this thing into my harpies just because I can, just for the shit of it. But I am super stoked that Thousand Eyes Restrict has come off the list and it's now unlimited, and it's just happy day. I think that Thousand Eyes Restrict is probably not going to see as much play as people would like, but with instant fusion around, Thousand Eyes Restrict could get a lot of play coming around. Just because it's so easy to summon out to the field with that card, and it has a super powerful effect. It's just, this is the all-time best fusion monster that has ever been created. As pretty much any duelist, will rank top 10 in pretty much any top 10 fusion list. I'm just super stoked that this card is finally off the ban list altogether. Allure of Darkness, limited to unlimited. Well, there goes the neighborhood. I know a lot of Dark World players that are going to be happy, motherfuckers. I'm sorry, I hate Dark Worlds. Any person worth their freaking salt in this game hates Dark Worlds. They're a pain in the ass to deal with. Jesus Christ, we might see Dark Worlds come back with this card. Arguably, this is one of the cards that made Dark Worlds, just because it gave you free draws. Pretty much, okay, it wasn't free. You had to banish a dark monster from your hand. But, with Dark Worlds, it didn't really matter, because, you're getting 2 free draws. That's a lot of fodder for Dark Worlds right there. Jesus Christ. I'm not even going to say anything else about this card. I'm so pissed that Konami brought this back. Sweetness, another card I called on my prediction video. Jesus Christ, I was actually on a roll with that. I called a couple of the cards on this list. Goat Sarcophagus went from limited to unlimited. This is a really good call considering how slow this card actually is. It's not really viable. Like I said in my prediction video, with pretty much every deck having their own searchers and having multiple searchers for that matter, Goat Sarcophagus is really just too slow. Even for rogue decks, it's, at least in my opinion, too slow. And I really feel that this was a good call on Konami's part. So, it's good, really exciting to see an old school card come back to 3. I will admit that I am happy to see it come back at 3. I might tech this into some of my decks just for the shit of it. Not any of my competitive decks, just my casual play decks, but still, it's nice to see some old school cards coming back, even if in this particular case it's not really a viable card. But I am super excited it came back. It does give rogue decks, even though it is super slow, it does give some rogue decks a little bit more viability, a little more play, and it's just, I'm sure there's a lot of people who's going to be excited that this card's come back. Well, that's it for my ban list discussion video. I'd love to hear your comments on the ban list. I'd love to know what you think about it, what you felt Konami did right, what you felt they did wrong, some of the things you might have done for the ban list different, or might have done differently for the ban list. I'd love to hear about that in the comment section below. And if you haven't seen it yet, I have submitted my admissions video for the next great Yu-Gi-Tuber competition season 4. I'm really hoping I get into this competition. I would love to see myself in this competition. If I do get in this competition, make sure you watch it. Make sure you vote for my videos. And until next time, this is Harpy Hunter 89 signing off.